Liam leaned against the polished railing of the Alaria station observation deck, his messy brown hair obscuring his eyes as he watched the diverse alien crowd. His rumpled shirt and worn cargo pants gave him an air of casual indifference, yet his keen green eyes missed nothing. "Another stellar performance, Earth's most eligible bachelor," he muttered sarcastically, observing a potential date wrinkle her nose and hurry past. 3 days, 0 dates, his galactic adventure wasn't quite living up to the hype. A disturbance near the diplomatic sector caught his attention. 6 Draken merchants had encircled a woman with captivating blue-gold skin. Her tailored diplomatic uniform accentuated her figure, but it was her face, a masterpiece of high cheekbones and fiery eyes, that held Liam's gaze. She maintained a diplomatic smile, yet Liam, accustomed to reading body language, recognized the tension in her shoulders. "Unfortunate about those trade restrictions," one of the Drakens rumbled, his scales rippling. "Perhaps alternative arrangements could be discussed, privately." "As I've explained, gentlemen," the woman's voice was melodious yet firm, "policy requires proper channels." Liam's mind raced. 6 against 1. Diplomatic sector cameras conveniently offline. Security patrol 12 minutes out. Time for improvisation. He stumbled forward, feigning the clumsy gait of a tipsy tourist. "Hey there," he waved at the woman with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Been looking all over. Ambassador Krill is frantic. Something about the Centauri delegation and a missing shipment of..." He paused, squinting at the Drakens as if just noticing them. "Oh, sorry, meeting? My bad. But you know how Krill gets about his schedule." The woman's eyes narrowed, then widened in understanding. "Ah, yes, the Centauri matter. My apologies, gentlemen, duty calls." The Draken shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew Ambassador Krill's legendary impatience. "Perhaps another time," their leader mumbled, retreating. Liam kept up the charade until they were gone, then straightened, a lazy grin replacing the drunken facade. "Charming bunch. Real negotiators." "That was surprisingly effective," the woman observed, studying him with newfound interest. "I'm Lyra," she said. "And you are?" "Liam." "Just a tourist looking for love in all the wrong places," he winked. "Though this is an improvement over getting shot down at the station bar." A smile played on her lips. "You orchestrated that entire scene, didn't you? The timing, the mention of Krill." "Me? Nah, just a simple Earth guy. Can't even tie my shoes." But his eyes sparkled with an intelligence that contradicted his words. "A simple Earth guy," Lyra repeated, stepping closer, her fragrance like exotic blossoms, who recognized a diplomatic impasse and manufactured a flawless exit. "I think there's more to you than meets the eye, Liam. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me needing a haircut." Lyra laughed, a sound that made his heart skip. Then, to his astonishment, she leaned in and kissed his cheek. "Thank you for your assistance. Perhaps we'll meet again." Liam stood frozen, watching her graceful departure. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of something unfamiliar, the desire to be more than the lazy guy in the corner. 2 weeks after their encounter on the Alaria station, a holographic invitation shimmered above Liam's bed in his cramped station apartment. "Constellation Academy of Interspecies Diplomacy," it read. "Recognizing exceptional potential in conflict resolution and cultural navigation, we are pleased to offer you a full scholarship." Liam ran a hand through his perpetually messy hair. "Well," he muttered, "at least it'll be a new place to meet women." The academy loomed, a breathtaking structure of crystalline spires and graceful arches, simultaneously ancient and futuristic. Liam adjusted his battered backpack, still his only luggage, and joined the throng of new students entering the grand hall. "Welcome, initiates," a holographic guide announced, its form morphing between various alien species. "Please proceed to the orientation amphitheater." Liam slouched in the back row, propping his feet up on an empty seat. Around him, students from countless worlds sat rigidly at attention, their pristine uniforms practically radiating eagerness. He suppressed a yawn. "Is this seat taken?" a purple-skinned Endorian asked, gesturing to the space beside him. "Nah, knock yourself out," Liam mumbled, shifting his feet. "I'm Liam." "Zeke's Thor," the Endorian replied. "I heard they only accepted 50 new students this cycle, out of millions of applicants. You must have an impressive diplomatic background." Liam snorted. "Yeah, super impressive. I once convinced my roommate's cat to stop using my shoes as a litter box." Before Zeke's Thor could respond, the lights dimmed. A tall, distinguished Vulcan took the stage, his silver robes gleaming. "I am Dean Vlar," he announced. "You represent the future of interspecies relations. Here you will learn not just diplomacy, but understanding, not just negotiation, but connection." Liam's attention wandered until a familiar figure graced the stage. His stomach lurched. It was Naya. She stood before the assembly, her blue-gold skin radiant under the lights. She wore a form-fitting instructor's uniform, her presence commanding absolute attention. Several students gasped. "Professor Naya," Dean Vlar continued, "our most acclaimed expert in cultural integration and emotional intelligence. Her course is considered the most challenging and most vital in our curriculum." Liam's mouth went dry as her eyes scanned the audience, finally locking onto his. Recognition flickered in their depths, followed by something that might have been amusement. "Well," she addressed the crowd, her gaze lingering on him, "I look forward to discovering what hidden talents our new class might possess." Zeke's Thor leaned over. "They say she's never given a perfect score. Not in 50 years of teaching." "50 years?" Liam whispered back. "But she looks like her species ages differently," Zeke's Thor explained. "She's actually over 200 years old. Half the galaxy has tried to court her, but she's never shown interest in anyone." After orientation, Liam wandered through the Academy's sprawling gardens, his mind unusually active. He found a quiet spot by a floating fountain and pulled out his class schedule. Cultural Integration and Emotional Intelligence with Professor Naya, a melodious voice read over his shoulder. "First period tomorrow morning." He turned to find Naya herself standing there, looking even more stunning up close. "I should have known you weren't just a random tourist," he said, managing a casual tone despite his racing heart. "And I should have known you weren't just a lazy Earth boy," she countered, a playful challenge in her eyes. "Though you certainly try hard to appear that way." "Hey," Liam protested, "laziness is an art form. Takes years of dedicated practice to look this unmotivated." "Indeed," she agreed, perching gracefully on the fountain's edge. "Then why are you here, Liam?" He considered his usual deflecting humor, but something in her eyes demanded honesty. "Would you believe me if I said I came looking for alien girlfriends and accidentally found a purpose?" "No," she laughed. "But I look forward to discovering your true reasons. Don't be late tomorrow." She paused before leaving. "And Liam, you might want to consider a haircut. We *do* have certain standards here." He watched her go, running a hand through his unruly hair. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of motivation, a desire to prove something, whether to her or himself, he wasn't quite sure. Professor Naya's Cultural Integration and Emotional Intelligence class was less a lecture and more a performance. She moved with a captivating grace, her blue-gold skin shimmering under the soft lights, her voice a melodious instrument weaving tales of interspecies customs and diplomatic blunders. Liam, surprisingly, found himself paying attention. He'd even traded his usual slouch for a more upright posture, although his newly trimmed hair still felt strangely unfamiliar. He'd caught Naya's eye a few times, and the fleeting amusement he saw there sparked a warmth that had nothing to do with the Academy's climate control. Dr. Kranos, a hulking Zord with a perpetually simmering temper, was another story. He seemed to take a particular delight in targeting Liam, calling him out in class with impossible questions about obscure alien rituals. "Mr. Sullivan," Kranos boomed one afternoon, his scaled hide rippling, "demonstrate the appropriate greeting for a visiting dignitary from the planet Xylos." Liam, remembering a late-night study session with Naya, calmly performed the elaborate series of gestures and vocalizations, even adding a subtle nuance he'd gleaned from an ancient Xylosian text. Krano's scales darkened with barely suppressed frustration. "Show off," he muttered, but Naya's small smile told Liam he'd scored a point. Outside of class, Krano's attention shifted from academic torment to something more unsettling. Lavish gifts began appearing on Naya's desk, rare Jovian crystals, shimmering silks from the Andromeda Nebula, even a live, and highly illegal, singing space slug. Liam suggested returning them, but Naya merely sighed, her amusement tinged with weariness. "He's a traditionalist," she explained. "In his culture, persistence is seen as a virtue." Liam, however, saw it as something else entirely, a challenge. The tension between Liam and Krano's escalated during a diplomatic simulation exercise. The scenario involved a tense negotiation between a human colony and a fiercely territorial alien race. Liam, playing the human ambassador, employed a risky but ultimately successful strategy of feigned weakness, lulling the aliens into a false sense of security before revealing his true bargaining position. Krano's, observing from the control booth, erupted. "Cheating," he roared. He manipulated the simulation parameters. Naya intervened, her voice cool and even. "The simulation allows for creative solutions, Dr. Krano's." Mr. Sullivan operated within the established rules. The simmering resentment in Krano's eyes was unmistakable. That evening, Liam found Naya in the Academy gardens, staring up at the swirling nebulae projected onto the artificial sky. "He's becoming a problem," she admitted, her voice quiet. "He accused me of favoring you in class." Liam's hand instinctively went to her arm, a protective gesture he immediately regretted. "Let me handle him," he offered, his tone hardening. Naya turned to him, her expression unreadable. "This isn't your fight, Liam." "Maybe not," he countered, his gaze locking with hers, "but you're not fighting alone." The unspoken promise in his words hung in the air, heavier than the artificial gravity. A silent acknowledgement of something more than student and teacher, something that was growing stronger with each passing day, despite the risks. The Academy's formal diplomatic reception was a dazzling display of interspecies elegance. Liam, for once, had abandoned his usual casual attire for a tailored uniform that, while still a bit snug in the shoulders, did wonders for his newly trimmed appearance. He felt exposed. He'd spent years cultivating a carefully constructed image of nonchalant disinterest, and now, standing in a room filled with the galaxy's diplomatic elite, he felt like a starship without its shields. Naya, however, was radiant. Her blue-gold skin shimmered under the soft lights, her elegant gown a masterpiece of flowing fabric and subtle iridescence. She moved through the crowd with effortless grace, a beacon of diplomatic charm. Liam watched her, a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with the champagne he'd been nervously sipping. He caught her eye across the room, and the small, private smile she gave him sent a jolt of something electric through him. It was a dangerous game they were playing, this delicate dance of attraction amidst the backdrop of interstellar politics. But tonight, surrounded by the glittering facade of diplomacy, Liam felt a reckless desire to throw caution to the solar winds. Their stolen moments became more frequent, more charged. Late-night study sessions in the library turned into whispered conversations, accidental brushes of hands lingered longer than necessary. Liam found himself drawn to her intelligence, her wit, her unwavering commitment to her principles. He'd never met anyone like her. Their covert rendezvous in the Academy gardens became a haven from the pressures of their double life. They spoke of everything and nothing, sharing stories of their pasts, their dreams for the future, their fears about the precarious balance they were maintaining. One cool evening, as they sat by the floating fountain, Naya turned to him, her expression serious. "This can't go on, Liam." His heart sank. He knew she was right, but the thought of ending it, of going back to pretending they were just student and teacher, was unbearable. "I know," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But," she continued, her hand reaching out to touch his cheek, her touch sending shivers down his spine, "I don't want it to." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken desires and unspoken risks. Liam leaned in, his lips brushing against hers. It was a kiss that spoke of longing, of defiance, of a love that dared to bloom in the face of impossible odds. Their secret, however, was not as safe as they thought. Dr. Kranos, his jealousy fueled by Naya's continued rejection, had been watching. He'd seen the stolen glances, the late-night meetings, the barely concealed tenderness between them. And he was determined to expose them, to destroy the fragile bond they had forged. The opportunity presented itself during the Academy's annual interspecies cultural exchange. The event was a vibrant celebration of diverse traditions, a showcase of music, art, and culinary delights from across the galaxy. Liam and Naya, despite the risks, couldn't resist stealing a few moments together, a slow dance amidst the swirling colors and exotic rhythms. They lost themselves in the music, in each other's presence, oblivious to the simmering resentment in Kranos' eyes as he watched them from across the crowded hall. As the music swelled, Dr. Kranos seized his opportunity. A hush fell over the hall as a holographic image shimmered above the dance floor. Liam and Naya, their kiss by the fountain, bathed in the soft glow of the artificial nebulae. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naya stiffened, her face a mask of controlled fury. Liam, however, met Kranos' gaze with a chilling calm. An unfortunate lapse in judgment, Kranos announced, his voice dripping with false regret. Such blatant disregard for Academy regulations cannot be tolerated. He turned to Dean Vlar, his expression triumphant. I believe disciplinary action is warranted. Several members of the Academy board nodded in agreement. Naya's career, her reputation, everything she had worked for, hung in the balance. Liam stepped forward, his hand resting on Naya's arm, a silent reassurance. Dr. Kranos, he addressed the Zord, his voice cutting through the shocked silence, I believe you have something that belongs to me. He projected a holographic image onto the screen, Kranos himself, hunched over his terminal, manipulating the footage of their kiss. The timestamp clearly showed it had been taken weeks earlier, on Alaria Station. Convenient how you had discovered this evidence just now, Liam continued, his gaze sweeping over the assembled dignitaries, after Professor Naya rejected your persistent advances. Then, he played another recording, Kranos' voice, laced with threats and veiled promises, attempting to coerce Naya into a relationship. The murmurs turned into gasps of outrage. Kranos' face went pale, his scales shifting rapidly. He stammered, trying to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. Dean Vlar, his expression grim, silenced Kranos with a raised hand. Dr. Kranos, he said, his voice cold and even, your actions are a disgrace to this institution. You are hereby suspended pending a full investigation. Two security officers approached Kranos, their faces impassive. The Zord, defeated and humiliated, allowed himself to be escorted away. Naya turned to Liam, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. You saved me, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Twice now. Liam smiled, cupping her face in his hands. We saved each other, he corrected. The applause of the assembled students and diplomats washed over them, a celebration of their victory, of their love. The scandal, however, had unintended consequences. The exposure of their relationship forced Naya to resign from her teaching position, a sacrifice she made willingly to protect Liam's future at the Academy. He was heartbroken by her decision, but Naya reassured him. This isn't the end, Liam, she said, her eyes shining with determination. It's a new beginning. Together, they left the Academy and established the Institute of Interspecies Diplomacy, a revolutionary institution that emphasized practical experience and genuine connection over rigid protocols. Their unique approach, blending Naya's deep understanding of interspecies cultures with Liam's unconventional tactical thinking, attracted students from across the galaxy. Their love story became a legend, whispered among students in hushed tones. The lazy Earth boy who found his purpose, the brilliant blue-gold professor who dared to love him, their unconventional romance became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of connection in a galaxy divided by difference. Years later, their institute thrived, a beacon of understanding in a sometimes chaotic galaxy. Liam, his hair now streaked with silver, stood beside Naya, her timeless beauty unchanged, as they watched their graduating class embark on their diplomatic careers. Who would have thought, Liam mused, his arm around Naya's waist, that a fake drunk act and a stolen kiss could lead to all this? Naya smiled, her golden eyes sparkling with amusement. "Don't sell yourself short, Liam," she teased. It took more than a little charm to win me over. Their laughter echoed across the campus, a familiar melody of love and shared purpose, a reminder that sometimes the greatest diplomatic achievements begin with the most unexpected connections. And as a new class of students arrived, eager to learn the art of interspecies understanding, Liam and Naya knew their journey had just begun. They had built a legacy, not just of diplomacy, but of love, a love that defied expectations, crossed boundaries, and changed the galaxy, one connection at a time.